How good was that? Holy smokes. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. Take a sidetrack for a moment. My mother named me after Doubting Thomas. And then she constantly questioned why I doubted. And she always told me, she said, I named you after Doubting Thomas. Why do you have a problem going to church? Why do you have these questions? Anyhow, when I went to Unity in 2019 for my application to be a minister, I was like, what am I doing here? Because it came so out of left field, you have no idea. And so I thought, I'll go early and I'll go to the Sunday service at Unity Village and just, sit in this question of, is this really for me? And they had a guest speaker from Texas. I don't remember her name. And she came up to the front of the room and began with, today I'd like to start with a reading from the book of Thomas, which had never happened in any church I had ever been in my life at that point. My wife was watching online, and she immediately texts me. I'm bawling. I'm like a crying, blobbing mess. And so again, today, I'm on this motorcycle journey. I've been in the question of, really, what am I doing? Should I be on this motorcycle journey? Should I even be here? And then the daily word, Thomas, comes up. So I'm, again, super grateful to be here. And I had a whole talk prepared, and then I thought, well, today is the finding the more in practicing the presence. How could I read a talk that I would been writing for the last week and not be present? So I'm going to just be as present as I possibly can with you today. But I'd like to start with, first of all, something that came up in my journal this morning, and that is for this incredible minister you have. I don't know if you know how... Yeah. He brought me here last night to see all the work that you're doing here, and my first comment to him was, I could feel the life in this building. There is life in this building. And during the meditation, when that beautiful baby made a sound, thank you, I was like, oh my gosh, there's life here. This is incredible. But I wrote this for you this morning, Reverend Pat. Reverend Pat is incredibly dedicated and alive with his ministry. It's who he is. It simply isn't who he is becoming, although I suspect that's always a work and a practice for him from his perspective of how could I be more of a minister? How could I be better? What I see is a man that is his ministry, a full, radiant being of truth and potential for all of us. Thank you. Yeah, I get a little emotional. So, what does it mean to know God is always present? And what does it mean to know presence? And what does it mean to be present? And maybe you're thinking, who is this guy? He kind of talks funny because he's from Canada, so it's a little bit weird. And he's all dressed in black. Does he think he's a priest or something? Is that what's going on? What's his story? And so maybe all these thoughts are running through your head, and we have to question, is that being present? Do I have a narrative running that's actually running the show all the time, or am I truly present to what's right in front of me, to what's really going on? And so I'm going to end up talking today a lot about motorcycling, because one thing I've learned about being on a motorcycle is you need to be present. Nobody sees, you have to actually work from the place of nobody sees you. They don't know you're on the road. So you have to be aware of everything and almost be thinking for everybody else while you're motorcycling. Another beautiful thing about motorcycling and touring around is what you get to experience. where I live on the West Coast, when I go for a ride, if I hit a place where there's cedar trees, immediately I can smell the cedar. Or if it's pine trees, immediately I can smell the pine. Or if it's by the ocean. Even coming into Minnesota, there was a freshness as I came through up north. I don't actually know what port of entry I came through. It's, I've never been to Minnesota before, so this is my first time in your state. Yeah. Even though I was born in Winnipeg a very long time ago, but I hadn't been here for some reason. I've been to many states, but there was just a freshness, and I slept. Yesterday morning, I woke up at Lake Bronson State Park. I don't know if you all know where that is, but it's quite a ways up north, above Thief River. So if you know where that is, and so I woke up there and was just like wowed by the nature up there. It's untouched, pretty much. So that's how it feels. But anyhow, getting back to motorcycle journeying, one of the things I mentioned to Rev Pat last night was, first of all, as a Canadian, I just want to let you all know, I love your country. Yeah. So let me explain that. I don't watch the news. I live on an island. Literally and figuratively, I live on an island. So I don't let the news dictate my life. I believe that life is lived from the inside out, not from the noise out there coming into me. And that has only come from Unity teachings. And so if I'm going to be a minister, I probably have to live by some of the standards that the Fillmores taught. And that is to be living the truth I know. I used to have an Edward Jones office. Anybody familiar with Edward Jones? We were a cross-border region, so I got to know a lot of Americans. And I'm also a Unity minister. There's not many Canadian Unity ministers. It's mostly American. So a lot of my colleagues are American. And I love you people because that's the country to me. I'm present to who you are, not the news. And here's what I mean by that. So I'm riding. I had some plans. I very loosely planned my trip. So it's like I needed to be here yesterday by 4 o'clock. Everything else between Monday when I left and arriving here was kind of up for grabs. We'll see how the wind blows. And so I stayed in a place called Shelby, Montana. Anybody know that? Somebody yelled, yeah, okay, great. So I stayed in Shelby, Montana. And the first campsite that I came across was basically a gravel lot. And I'm in a tent. I'm like, that's just not going to work. So I did a little research and found out that Shelby, the city of Shelby, has its own little campsite that they sponsor. And it's $25 for the night. And it has a shower. And I was like, wow, that's a great bargain. I'll go there. So there was myself and 2 other people in that campsite. I camped next to a person who I later went and met. His name is Isaac. Isaac is from San Francisco, and he's on a bicycle in Shelby, Montana. I'm on a motorcycle. I'm like, well, mine's a little easier to manage than yours. Anyhow, we get to talking, and I have no idea how this happens, but ministry sort of comes up. I think maybe he asked, what do you do, or why are you on a motorcycle trip from Canada? And I explained to him what I was doing. And it turns out that Isaac is studying A Course in Miracles. What are the chances, right? I'm in Shelby, Montana. There's 3 people, including me, in a campsite. And the guy I talked to is studying A Course in Miracles, the thing that brought me to Unity. So naturally, I said, hey, I've got some peppermint licorice tea that I'm going to make. Would you like to have some? So we ended up having tea together and chatted for the evening. Fabulous. Yesterday, as I mentioned, I woke up in Lake Bronson, and I got in very late. So part of motorcycling, the way I do it, is I don't plan very well. So I leave maps. You can set your map to no highways, no tolls. And I don't like being on highways or freeways on a motorcycle. I like the back roads because you get into these small towns, right? And you see the world. You actually see people and experience life. So where I woke up yesterday, I got in kind of late, like 9:30, and I don't like riding at night. And although my intention was to get to the Thief River, I cut it short when I saw that there was camping 2 miles to my left. I was like, I'm going to just take that and get safe for the night, get my camp set up. So I woke up. I didn't pay for it. It was a state park. I saw the little QR code. I couldn't really figure it out in my tent how to pay for it, so I just like, well, nobody's after me, so I'm sure I'll be fine. In the morning, I go to the ranger station, and there's Cal and Rebecca in the ranger station. Like, I don't know Cal and Rebecca, but I do now, and they're awesome. First of all, Cal says to me, I come in and I go, look, I'm really sorry. It was late last night. See, I'm Canadian. First thing I did was apologize. I'm really sorry for staying last night. I didn't pay for anything. And Cal's like, oh, no, you're one of those. Right? And he starts kind of just playing along with me. Anyhow, we solved it. It was $25, again, to camp for the night. But here's what I found out. Rebecca was just happy to be alive. She was trying to figure out how I could pay for something that I had already done, because I wasn't reserving it, right? Because I think the system is set up to reserve. So how do you reserve for the night before? So she was working on that. Cal was asking me, why are you on a motorcycle from Canada? And the truth is that my end game here, anybody familiar with the band Rush? I'm on my way to see Rush in Toronto. That's the real purpose for this journey to begin with. I mean, I even have Rush tattoos. That's how bad it is. I'm a drummer, so, and my wife's cool with it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, live on. Yeah, here we go. So he says, what does your wife think of that? And I said, well, she's cool about it. She just doesn't really like Rush. She's a musical theater gal. And guess what? Cal loves musical theater. So we end up talking about, of all things, Shrek. Right? So this is, the reason I'm telling you this is because this is what I experience in life when you're present. When you're willing to be open. When you're allowing your heart to lead you as opposed to the noise that's going on up here. Because I get it. I am constantly bombarded by what I could think about and all of my judgments and all of my preconceptions and even the embedded beliefs that were given to me as a child, being Catholic. Not that they're bad, but they're ways of thinking and being that I don't want. Yet they still come up, right? They still want to populate my thinking. And it takes everything for me and for you, for all of us, to remind ourselves that there's something greater. It's called life. It's called living in the moment. For me, when I hear the term God, I think of life. I think that that is the gift. I watched my twin daughters be born. And what was amazing to me was when they came out, their first instinct was to reach for that breath. Like to fight and grab that breath instinctively. And it makes me think of Genesis, of the breath of life being put into us. And if we're not living our best life in this moment, what are we doing? No, I'm really asking you, what are we doing? Because the only moment we have is which one? The one we're in right now. And I remember having this coach that said to me, if this is not the best moment in your life, what are you doing? And in spite of all the things that can go wrong, in spite of all the challenges that we might face, what are we doing in that moment? So as I said, motorcycling can make us present. So I went to the wrong border on the way down into Minnesota. It was closed. Because I set my Google for no highways, it took me on one of the small roads, and I was just like, not even thinking like the border would be closed. And I get there and it's all gated up, and then it's like, oh no, what am I going to do? So I had to head further east in order to I had to go back west in order to come east again to the border. So it was about a 40-minute detour, and it's late. So it shows me a road that I can use that's very close. I'm like, oh, this is great. I get to the road. Guess what? It's gravel. I'm on a motorcycle. Fortunately, I ride a BMW Duo Sport, so it's an off-road, on-road motorcycle, and my tires are 70-30, so 70 highway, 30% gravel, so I can ride on gravel. But basically, with me and all of my gear and my motorcycle, we're talking about 900 pounds on gravel, and it's a bit loose. And the map says it's 10 miles of gravel. I'm like, okay, I can do this. So I do that. But the next intersection where it was supposed to be over is actually just an intersection, and then it's another 15 miles of gravel. So I get to ride 25 miles of gravel. And I've only been riding a motorcycle for like 5 years maybe, so no dirt bike experience. So here's what I had to do. I had to keep reminding myself to relax. I had to keep reminding myself to not grip, to be present, to not allow all the thoughts of what could happen. Because literally, if I wiped out and couldn't get, was dysfunctional, there's nobody on this road. It's 8:30 at night. Nobody's coming to save me. Poor Thomas, right? So I have this practice that really works for me, that allows me to be present. And so I'm gonna invite you to try it on. Is everybody familiar with PBS? Right, the Public Broadcasting Service. That's what it is? Yeah, that's what it is. So I used to get that as a kid up in Canada. We would get PBS, and so it was Mr. Rogers, The Electric Company with Morgan Freeman, right? Sesame Street, of course, was on there. My favorite, Monty Python's Flying Circus, was actually on PBS as well, for those that, some great British shows. So I have a new definition for PBS. It is pause, breathe, soften. It's a very simple meditation practice that you can just do anytime, anywhere, no matter what might be stressing you out, no matter, that term, life is lifing me. Ever had that experience where you're just, it's just coming at you, You can just pause. You can just try it right now. You can just pause, take a breath, and as you exhale, just soften. Just be in the moment for a moment. Allow yourself to just clear. Open your eyes. Right. I've got this. Everything's different now. And that is something that you can do anytime, anywhere. Because being in the present is actually the gift of life. Everything else is noise. The future casting that we do, the why did I do that? I can't believe I did that from the past. Whether we're dragging something from the past or trying to predict the future, does it ever work? No, seriously. Has anybody ever figured out any of that stuff actually working? No. So the best thing we can do for ourselves is practice being present, like we are right now. What a gift to be here, present with one another. I've witnessed so much of that this morning from all of you. Just as you've come in, I've been observing this community and how beautiful, how full of life and love you are. And that comes from being present. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep building what you're building. Don't allow the outside noise to determine how you're going to show up in the world. That's what living the truth looks like. It looks like you living your truth, knowing that love is our best guide. Thank you so much for having me here today. Namaste.